We should like to greet our online attendees in the Mass, those who are coming from the Philippines and from many other parts of the world. We are very sure that you are watching and you are joining our celebration of the Mass. Happy New Year to everybody and Happy Three Kings. The second semester in the seminary begins today, and the seminarians are back from a much-deserved Christmas vacation. My dear brothers and sisters, the gospel reading that we read is the only miracle story in the Bible, in the New Testament, that is narrated in all the four Gospels. This is the only miracle story that is narrated, that is recounted in all the four Gospels. And today, we read Mark's version of the twin miracles of the multiplication of the loaves and the fish and the feeding of the 5,000. These are two miracles that happened one after the other. These are two miracles that the Lord performed successively: the multiplication of the loaves and the fish and the feeding of the 5,000. And this particular miracle, this particular story, is a story that is full of symbolism. It uses symbolic language, like, for example, the Lord asked the disciples, ask the people to sit down in groups, meaning to say, that is about community life, and let them sit on the green grass. If the grass is green, what season of the year is that? That is not winter, that is not summer, that is not fall, that is springtime. And probably many Filipinos are not familiar with the four seasons of the year. But in other countries where there is springtime, this is very familiar, this is very common. There is grass, and what does that suggest? If it is springtime, there is life, there is hope, and in God there is life and there is hope. Another symbolic language that the gospel today uses is that it uses Eucharistic language. It uses Eucharistic vocabulary. For example, Jesus taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven, he said the blessing, he broke the loaves. That is Eucharistic language. That is Eucharistic vocabulary. He said the blessing, he broke the loaves, gave them to the disciples. That is a prefiguration of the Eucharistic celebration. My dear brothers and sisters, we can say many things about the gospel reading for today, but we cannot say everything in one short homily. But of all the miracles of the Lord that He did, this is the only one that is repeated in all the four Gospels. A great multitude had gathered to listen to Jesus because Jesus is a teacher, and because also the people were hungry for the word of life. And the disciples of the Lord wanted to send the people away at the end of the day. It was getting late. They have no resources to feed them. They even complained how much money they would spend and it would take to feed such a crowd, at least 5,000 people. But Jesus took the little that they had, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And you know, this is the kind of fish that is cheap. And this is the kind of loaves, this is the kind of bread that is also very cheap. This is the bread of the poor. When I was reflecting, I was reading about this again this morning, I was reminded of a very cheap kind of bread in Cebu. And if I'm not mistaken, the name, the Cebuanos, the Visayans, would probably be able to identify this type of bread. In Cebu, we call it bahug-bahug. That's a cheap kind of bread, bahug-bahug. In any case, these loaves, this fish, these are the cheap kind of loaves and the cheap kind of fish. and giving thanks to the Father, distributed to all until everybody was satisfied. In other words, in God, there is no hunger. In God, there is full satisfaction. And Jesus makes a claim later on that only God can make, that Jesus is the true bread from heaven that can satisfy the deepest hunger of man. Amen.